the markets, finance, the economy, and commentary. Nothing within this should be viewed as an investing or trading recommendation. GTC Traders is not a registered investment advisor or advisory service. It does not tell or suggest which securities or derivatives should be bought or sold. Analysts, affiliates, employees, or partners of GTC Traders may hold long or short positions within the currencies, derivatives, securities, equities, or industries herein discussed. GTC Traders and Secundus Puer LLC assumes no responsibility or liability for any trading or investing results. Facts, statements, data, and charts posted to the company website or mentioned within this may unintentionally include inaccuracies. Content is for educational purposes only, and outside independent advice should be sought to confirm the validity or accuracy of any statement or claim made. You should ask the firm with which you invest, trade, or deal about the specific terms, conditions, tax implications, and risks of specific markets, and the associated obligations that such trading may place upon you. You should always check with your licensed financial advisor and tax advisor to determine the suitability of any investment to your individual circumstances. No assumption should be made in relation to the performance or accuracy of the methods shown. No claims are made as to the success or profitability of any statements made.
So we thought we would begin sort of a new series here at GTC Traders. Just a very, very brief look, maybe ask some questions of things that have just caught our eye. Just call it something along the lines of like brief thoughts on markets, whether that be a market or an individual stock or asset or whatever. Maybe just 5-6 minutes, boom, here's some data, here's some things that caught our eye. That's curious. It sort of raises a Spock eyebrow, right? So this is one that has caught my eye as of late. I followed this particular company for years. This is a chart of DEO. This chart of DEO goes back to November of 2022. And as soon as I saw this chart, I thought, well, that's interesting, because if you look at this chart and you consider the fact that that goes back to November of 2022, something may jump out at you. It jumped out at me anyways, is that, that's interesting. That has not kept up with the broader indices. I can just tell by looking at it. I don't need any technical analysis tool or any sort of tea leaf reading to see, just broad observation. That thing has not kept up with the indices, which led me to question, well, I wonder why that is. That's something I think a lot of new traders really need to zero in on. So many times, I think they see, this is Rob's term for it, and I love this, and he's been saying this for years. They see the market as a chart. The market is not a chart. Like, this is just a physical representation of things that have happened in the past about a company that actually makes stuff. DEO makes stuff like Guinness and Johnny Walker and a bunch of other stuff. It's an ADR, so if you don't know what an ADR is, just real briefly, that just means that it's a company that's not based in the U.S., and here's some shares on the New York Stock Exchange that you can trade of this company, right? I followed it for years. Like I said, Guinness, a bunch of other things, but it just jumped out at me, just broad observation. Like, this is a company that makes junk, right? That chart is not the market. That chart is history. But very obviously, the history tells me, and you do have to go off the history somewhat, that thing hasn't kept up with the broader indices. I wonder why that is. And I don't mean to sound like a pompous jerk, but sometimes when I go out there and sort of try to find out what the hubbub is on a particular market or a particular stock or, anything really, I see a lot of like hyper-focus on entry criteria. You know what I mean? And that doesn't tell me anything about like what's actually going on here. Like what's the story, Morning Glory, right? So I just began perusing around, and I would look at several different things, right? So I would look at, their cash from their operating venue here. It was around, let me see here. Back in 2017, 3.97 billion, 4.15, 4.20. Very obviously, it's going to drop in 2020. Here in 2023, we only hit 3.64. So, okay, I find that fascinating. A little bit of a drop there. I'm very interested in companies' debt structures. So I look at, you can pull that apart in any number of ways. I look at other factors. Their payout ratio, dividend payout ratio is big with me. You see in 2017, it dropped from 59, or went from 59 to 53 to 50. Obviously in 2020, it's going to spike. And it's back down to 50, right? 48 and 50. Okay, that's interesting. Their debt structure, like I said, just this is still all that same stuff that I was talking about before. That's not actually the story. I'm just perusing, trying to get sort of a big picture look. I'm very interested, as I said, in the debt structure. Sort of evenly spaced out, as we can see. Some coming up here, what is that, 2024 and 2025. I like the fact that they've pushed a lot of that out to, 2032. Okay, I like that. But again, these are all just metrics. What's the story? And again, how can any of us really know anything, really? But still. Then I start looking at some of its competitors, and I'm going over stuff like its balance sheet, you name it, right? But I start looking at its competitors, and I pull up a chart here. This is looking at DEO, MO, BTI, right? Sort of the sin stocks. We can call them the sin stocks, the sinner, right? CZR. So it's like, well, that's interesting. None of them have kept up with the broader indices. So what's going on with the sin stocks? I don't know. Does anyone know, really? I have heard reports that the younger generation just is not as interested in the activities that make up the sin stocks. Does that have something to do with it? I don't know. What are your thoughts? You can comment below, but I just find that interesting that the sin stocks are it could just be rotational. And right, you got to remember, like I said, I have a ton of processes. There's always a valuation side of my brain going on, but I do short-term trades around August 14th. I didn't take it, but I was thinking, man, I should put on some sort of bearish trade there, right? Whether that being selling some call premium or structuring some sort of short position there, But I didn't do it. But just interesting. Interesting. The sin stocks have not been doing well. That's just something that caught our eye for brief market thoughts. Is it a value trap? There's another question. I don't see any reason to get long now, at least according to our processes. There's always going to be short-term trades, and as ones know, I'm more than willing to take those. I've been very light on short-term trades lately. But we'll see. What are your thoughts? Because for today, that's been what it's always been. It's just been our thoughts for whatever the heck day it is. As always, stay safe, trade well, and remember that love isn't costing you.